Hello and welcome to 22.2 Exercise Prescription by Jago Hussain. Exercise prescription is the specific instructions given by a specialist in a certain area that is required for the patient. The prescription will help the client overcome a weakness that they went to the specialist to in the first place. An example could be a client having high blood pressure, so the specialist could prescribe cardiovascular exercise. They could also provide the client with information regarding the issue that they went to them in the first place with. They should also provide the client with information on what they should be doing in terms of exercise. A good way to prescribe exercise is using the term FIT. FIT stands for frequency, intensity, time, and type. Frequency is prescribing how often the client should be doing exercise per week. For example, they should be doing something twice a week or something 3 times a week. Next, intensity is looking at how much the client should be putting into each exercise. A good way of showing this could be rate of perceived exertion, or if it's cardiovascular, looking at the different thresholds of a certain person's max heart rate in order to find out what zone you want them to be training in. The next one is time. Time, for example, could be telling your client to go on a 30-minute run. This is showing that you're giving them a specific time in which they should be sticking to. Finally, there is type, and this is looking at the type of exercise they should be doing. So, for example, you can either prescribe cardiovascular exercise, or you could prescribe, say, interval training, or even continuous training. The next thing I'll be looking at is contraindications. There are 2 types of contraindications. The first one is absolute. Absolute contraindications are conditions that means doing exercise is an absolute no. Some examples of this is unstable angina, deep vein thrombosis, and acute myocardial angina. The reason these fall under absolute contraindications is because under no circumstance should a person be doing exercise whilst they have these conditions, as it could have a serious impact on their health and well-being. So if a PT or someone planning a session saw these contraindications, they would automatically know not to prescribe exercise to these clients. The next one is relative contraindications. These are conditions that make doing exercise unadvisable, and this means that exercise shouldn't be given. However, if a client, say, really wants to exercise, then there can be certain exercises that can be allowed. Some examples of relative contraindications are high blood pressure, liver diseases, and advanced pregnancy. Next, we'll be looking at contraindications for different groups of people. The first group of people I'll be looking at is overweight people. There are a few key contraindications that overweight people are more susceptible to. The first of which is coronary heart disease. This is where the arteries are narrowed by the buildup of fatty acids, which could lead to problems with breathing. The next contraindication for obese people is that they may have higher blood pressures, which can make hard work even harder than it should be, which in severe cases can lead to strokes and heart attacks. Another contraindication is respiratory difficulties. This is going to make the client struggle with exercise because anything of an extreme intensity will put them at a high risk of a heart attack, arteries being clogged up with fatty acids. With these contraindications in mind, there are various different sessions that I would recommend. These include primarily cardiovascular exercises using interval training and continuous training. By using this type of training, I'd recommend combining both continuous and interval training. The first session that I would prescribe, it would be either jogging on a treadmill or outside for roughly 20 to 30 minutes to begin with, and this should be done at 78% of their maximum heart rate in order to get the most efficient training possible for the client during this session. I recommend that they should do this between 3 to 4 times a week, or twice a week alongside another type of cardiovascular exercise, such as cycling on a bike, inside at a gym, or even outside. I'd recommend they should be doing this for again 20 to 30 minutes, and should be aiming to be between 70 to 80% of their maximum heart rate. Cycling is a very good activity for basic cardiovascular endurance because it helps build up also your endurance and the power within your legs. Second and final session is an interval swimming session. For this session, the client should be working at 70 to 80% of their max heart rate. They should start by doing 50 meters of swimming and then have a 90-second rest before doing another 50 meters of swimming and then having a second 90-second rest. They should aim to be doing 10 sets of 50 meters swimming in this session. A benefit of this session is that it is non-weight bearing. This is a benefit for overweight people as they are at risk to osteoarthritis. So doing a non-weight bearing exercise will be beneficial for them. The next group I'll be looking at is children. Some of the contraindications for children when they participate in activity is that they can pick up an injury which may prevent them from taking part in exercise for a long period of time, or at least prevent them from doing certain activities for a certain period of time. This has the potential to have psychological difficulties for the child. However, it shouldn't have as big of an impact on them as it would do for other people in different specific groups. This is since their understanding isn't as high as others, as well as the fact that younger people recover and heal from injuries at a much faster rate. The next contraindication could be a lack of energy. This may not seem like a big factor for children. It can be, as their energy stores are generally smaller and lower than adults, meaning that they will find it a lot more difficult to participate in exercise, as they will be fatigued from things such as schoolwork and playtime during school. The final contradiction to children could be illness. This could be them having weaker immune systems, which will mean they're more susceptible to becoming ill. Next, looking at what exercise we can prescribe to children. First off, you should avoid doing resistance training and high impact training, as the use of heavy weights can have an impact on their growth and potentially stunt it. This is why it is good to avoid these types of exercise. The first session I would prescribe to a young child would be a low intensity running session. This would include doing 20-meter sprints 8 times and having 30 seconds rest between each one, and then moving on to doing 50-meter sprints 6 times with 30 seconds rest between each one. I would suggest that they look to do this 2 to 3 times a week, as this will help to improve their cardiovascular system as well as develop ideal muscle groups. Another session that I would prescribe would be a light cycle ride with their family. This could be going out for a 30-minute cycle 1 to 2 times a week, as this will help blood flow around the body and will help with their heart becoming stronger and being able to pump blood around their body quicker. The final group I'll be looking at is older people. The first contraindication of older people is that they are more susceptible to osteoporosis. This is where they have weaker bones, which means that the bone is more brittle and can result in a higher rate of injury such as bone breakages or fractures. The next contraindication would be diabetes, as past dietary problems could have caught up with them, and this can lead to high blood pressure and sugar levels, which could lead to diabetes. The final contraindication is general mobility. This is because older people generally have lower levels of flexibility and lower muscle mass, meaning that they have a lower level of mobility. This will have an effect on what sessions I prescribe them, as there should be no high impact training like isometric training, and the training should be of a low intensity. The first session I would prescribe an older person is water aerobics. This is because water aerobics is non-weight bearing, meaning that an older person with osteoporosis would be able to take part, as them being in water will mean there is less pressure put on their bones, meaning that they will be able to take part and their risk of injury will be lower. I would recommend that they try and do this maybe two to 3 times a week for about 45 minutes. However, you can generally go to a local leisure centre and take part in an organised session. The next session I would prescribe for an older person would be cycling on a bike, as this is low intensity and will mean that the person taking part will not be putting as much pressure through their joints. I would recommend they try to do this 1 to 2 times a week and should be aiming to reach 60 to 70% of their max heart rate. Thank you for watching my PowerPoint.